friends, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this card for you today, and I was thinking about using all of these different products that you can see on my desk. I don't end up using everything here, but I wanted to show you these lovely layers mushrooms. I think they're absolutely adorable. I didn't use these on this project, but I'm excited to use them on another project coming soon. I did use the Lovely Layers Dianthus set. This is beautiful, and the die set actually comes with a coordinating card that shows you all of the different layers for the Dianthus. There's actually a QR code there for you as well to help you out. And this is the beautiful stencil set that's called Autumn Delight Berries and Flowers. There's a bunch of stencils here that layer together to create the most beautiful patterned paper that I'm going to be using for my background. And then lastly, this is the Lovely Layers wood vase. This is adorable. I don't end up using that today, but again, I am going to be using that very soon. Now here I have a card panel. This is an A2 size white card panel on my desk, and I've got the Altenew grip mat on my desk as well to do my ink blending. I'm just showing you here how I store my Distress Oxide inks. I do use the Totally Tiffany Chastity bags to store my oxide inks. I love that way of storing my inks. It's just really, really great. I can just grab those bags off my shelf. Now I am going to be using some crushed olive Distress Oxide ink for this first layer for my stenciling. So I did put that first stencil over my cardstock, and now you can just see how that Altenew grip mat just holds the paper down so nicely and holds the stencil down as well, which is perfect. And now you can just see that really pretty light green that I have down for the very first layer for my project. So next I'm going to go in with that next layering stencil. I'm just going to grab the stencil, and then you'll see me overlay that over top of this layer here. I'm just going to line up the leaves with those veins of the leaves that I've already put down with that crushed olive. Now I'm actually going to go in with crushed olive again, and you will just be able to faintly see the veins that I've already stenciled out with that first stencil. And the method to my madness here was I didn't necessarily want the veining to be super prominent. I want it to just be light in the background, and it actually works out really, really well. So the great thing about this ink is that it's going to allow the layer that I put down first to be seen through this next layer. And I'm just going a little bit lighter with this crushed olive so that you can still see that veining underneath. So now I'm just reaching into my little storage container here, and I'm grabbing cracked pistachio. And so I'm going to use cracked pistachio just to add a little more detail to the green. So this is just going to add another nice little tone of green to that crushed olive. It's just going to brighten it up a little bit and just add that little bit of detail. The really wonderful thing about a layering stencil is you can go in any of the little areas of that stencil and layer your ink colors, which is really super fun. I really enjoy this process, and there you can just see how pretty that cracked pistachio is over top of that crushed olive. So now I'm just taking a look here, and I'm going to grab the next stencil. So just again, taking a few seconds to make sure that all of the different areas of the stencil are lined up. Now you could use a 6x6 piece of paper and stencil a larger panel if you want, because these stencils are 6x6, but I just wanted to focus on the area for my A2 size card. So I did cut my panel down. And now you can just see here that I'm grabbing, I think peacock feathers this time, and just really trying to blend on some really pretty colors for a really nice color palette here with these blue greens and greens. I love the crushed olive color. I think it's gorgeous. So now this stencil is adding some of the larger leaves and larger blooms. And so just adding these in, it's also adding some of the berry detail in as well. So really, really pretty. I'm going over all of the area with the same color here, but if you wanted to separate out some different colors, you could definitely, some of those little spiky ones you could put in a different color than the other areas here, but I just decided that I was going to do that whole stencil there with peacock feathers. So really pretty. I think that's gorgeous. Now, Uncharted Mariner, definitely my all-time favorite distress color. It's just the most beautiful teal. I love it. It's kind of like a navy teal combo. And I really wanted to incorporate some of that into these blooms. So I'm just going in and adding a little bit of that darker blue over top of the peacock feathers. And it's just going to deepen up the color, add a little bit of shading, and just add a little bit more depth and dimension to my ink blending here. So now that's all finished. I'm taking the next stencil, just going to take a few seconds again and just going to line this up. And it is super easy to line these stencils up. It just takes a second. You might have to just turn it a little bit to the left or the right, clockwise or counterclockwise, and just get it down, and then it's perfect. And now I'm just putting it again onto that mat. It's nicely stuck down. This grip mat is just beautiful for this sort of thing. And the gray mat on my table is just a silicone mat, so that grip mat sticks to the silicone mat. If you had a glass mat on your table, the grip mat would grip a glass mat really nicely as well. Now I'm going in with some speckled egg for my next stencil layer here. I'm just going to clean my brush here a little bit on some paper towel. And I'm just going to go ahead in and add this next little bit of color with that speckled egg. I love how the speckled egg coordinates with the other colors I've chosen here. I think it looks really pretty. And so I'm just going to go in and blend all of the open areas for this stencil as well. And again, if you want to, you could separate out the colors. If you wanted to make sure that the different areas of the stencil are different colors, you could definitely do that. I definitely went the easy route and made these all the same color. But I will say that with the number of stencils you get in this set, it's not difficult to add new colors into the project because you get so many different layering stencils here with this set. Now I'm using the last stencil, I believe, for this set now, and I'm going in and adding another layer of the petals, and there's berries on this one as well, and so on. Really gorgeous. And just going to go ahead in with the speckled egg and add this last bit in. And then you'll see me grab my Uncharted Mariner again and a finer detail brush. And here, this is just going to add a little bit of a shadow as well around some of those areas that I've already added here with my speckled eggs. So I'm just going in and adding that on, and I love it. I think it's really, really pretty. So just taking my time, I'm going back with the speckled egg to blend out the Uncharted Mariner a little bit as well, and just trying to get a nice smooth blend. Now, when I do put the card together, some of this is going to get covered up, but what I really love the most about these layering stencils is it's just perfect for creating your own patterned paper. So you can make your pattern paper whatever color you want. Now I'm going in again, lastly, with some crushed olive for this last little bit of detail here. And so I believe then this must be the last stencil. And I'm sorry, I'm not counting for you, but it's very, very easy to use these. And when you're finished, voila, that's what you're going to get. So look how gorgeous that is. I love it. You could even add some texture paste on here or some sparkle paste, whatever you want for one of the layers. Now I'm going to start to cut my Dianthus. I've got my Bitty Buzz cutter on my table. I'm going to cut out the petals, the actual blooms, with this really pretty aqua colored cardstock. It's kind of a pool color. I thought that would look really pretty with the colors that I chose for my ink blending. I'm using kind of a dark olive color for the greenery for the Dianthus as well, using my Bitty Buzz cutter to cut out all of those different pieces. Once I have all of the pieces cut out, what I'm doing is I'm using that card that came with the die set, and I'm lining up all of the different little bloom pieces. So there's 3 different blooms. And so there's bloom A, bloom B, and bloom C. And that little card, the instructional card that comes with the die set, shows you all of the different little pieces in order that you should assemble them. So that top one that I have in the top line there is A, and then I haven't put the B line together yet, but the bottom one is for bloom C. So once I have all of those lined up, I'll be ready to assemble the blooms together. And so I'm just going to get bloom number B and all those little pieces in that little row. And that's just going to make it really, really easy to put these together once they're all in the right order. And you can see there's some fairly tiny little pieces, but they go together really easily. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the second largest piece from the left, and I'm going to layer that with the next smaller piece on to the right of it. And I'm going to start to assemble these together, and you'll be able to see really easily how to line these up because there's some really common little lines on them that help you. And the little card that comes with the die set is very explanatory. It really explains well how to actually assemble these little Dianthus. So I'm going to put that last little piece on the top. And now that these pieces are all assembled together, they're going to just fit beautifully onto that base piece. So that was the method to my madness for putting together these Dianthus, starting with the second largest piece and working smaller. And then once you have all of the smaller pieces assembled, put those onto the base piece. And there you can just see that all put together there and how that's going to fit onto the foliage. The one I've got it on there is not the right one. That actually goes on the top one, I believe. So now I'm going to do the same thing with bloom B and C. You'll just see me here going through the process of lining each one of these up, and they are just so cute when they're finished. Now, I chose to die cut these obviously with colored cardstock. I didn't do any ink blending this time, but if you've watched me on the channel here before, you've seen me do different types of techniques with the lovely layers. So really, it's totally up to you. You could die cut these with white and ink blend. You could die cut them with different colors of cardstock so that each of the different layers is slightly different to allow for that depth and dimension in that way. Or you could do it this way and add them all with the same color for more of a subtle look. And you could add ink blending onto this cardstock as well, or onto a variety of different colors of cardstock. So there's so many different ways that you can do this. You could die cut these out of watercolor paper and watercolor them. There's just a zillion different ways to use your lovely layers and make them look different every time you die cut them. So I just think that the Lovely Layers collection is amazing. If you haven't started your Lovely Layers collection yet, I highly recommend them. They're really great dies to have in your stash. You can use them in so many ways. They're so versatile. So definitely love these. I love this Dianthus set. I think it's so pretty. These little blooms are just so lovely and delicate. They're just really, really super sweet. So if you love botanicals and you really love florals, this is a great set for you for sure. So I'm just going to finish up here, this last little bloom. That's going to go onto that base, and then we're going to have these really adorable 3 blooms for our foliage base. And I love that that foliage base is all one piece, obviously. So now you can just go to that base piece that I've cut from the dark green cardstock, and you can start to add the details. So the Dianthus are going to go on there, and now we've got a bunch of leaves as well that we can add on here. And again, that card shows you where to put all of these different leaves. Now, at first I thought I was just going to go ahead and put them on without the blooms, and then I thought, you know what, I think I want to put the blooms on and then fit the little leaves in underneath. So I put the Dianthus blooms onto the cardstock base by adding the liquid adhesive kind of in the center of the bloom. So at this point, I'm just kind of trying to figure out which leaf goes where and organize the leaves, and then I'll be ready to go. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that liquid adhesive kind of in the center there. I'm going to hold this up so that I can see it. I do have a different camera set up. I did purchase a different camera for filming, so it's not necessarily in quite the right spot yet. I think I have it too close to the center of my desk instead of more towards me where I sit. So I'm struggling a little bit with seeing what I'm doing here. So that's why I ended up lifting this up so that I could see where I'm putting the blooms here, these die cuts. I'm just going to glue those into place, and then I'll just be able to go in and stick those little leaves in kind of in behind. So I didn't use any extra dimension when I put this together. That's another thing you could do if you wanted, is add these on with some dimensional adhesive. Sometimes I feel like the lovely layers are dimensional enough without that, and I don't necessarily add foam adhesive. It just kind of depends on the project that I'm making and whether I'm going to mail the card or give it, hand deliver it, and that kind of thing. So it just really is personal preference. But for this one, I did just go ahead and use my Honeybee liquid adhesive for this process. Now, what I did was I just went through and I lined up which leaf goes in which area so that I had it kind of sitting beside that leaf on my table, so that I didn't have to try to figure out which leaf is for which leaf, if that makes sense. So this next one is just going to go on here in this area, just using my tweezers to help me get these into place. So I'm going to get that little guy in there, and again just using my Honeybee liquid adhesive to place these and just sticking them underneath that bloom so that they fit perfectly over top of, they overlay perfectly over top of my die cutting piece here. Now I could have die cut the leaves out of a different color than the base. That would be another option here as well. I could have used a lighter color for the leaves rather than the stem. And that's, you can definitely do that. Again, that's going to just add more dimension to the leaves and make it look a little bit more dimensional in that way. But I was just going for a little bit of a different look for this one. So I'm just going to finish adding that on, and that is the completed flower. So really pretty. Now I did use my A2 scallop card frames to die cut this really sweet little scallop rectangle for the center of my card. I also used one of our vine cover plates to add some texture to it. I will link all of those different items in the description box below, but I just really liked how that rectangle frames out and creates an area for that bloom to be on the card. And I also took the stenciled card base, the card front, I should say, and I did trim that out by 1/4 of an inch. So when you see in this next frame assembling the card, you'll notice that the card front is slightly smaller, and that's because I trimmed it down by 1/4 of an inch. So I did pop up that scalloped rectangle with some foam adhesive, and I've adhered that onto the card front now. And you can just see how really sweet that Dianthus looks on top there. Okay, so I am going to be using the Heartfelt Hello stamp set and coordinating die for my sentiment. This is an amazing set, friends. If you have not picked this up yet, you do not want to miss out on it. It is beautiful. The font is gorgeous. The sentiments are really lovely. And I'm going to be using one of the sentiments from that set to stamp out my sentiment using some black ink. And I am going to be using the Honeybee Intense Black ink for this inking or stamping here. So I'm just going to, I've got the stamp in my mini Misty here. I've got my white cardstock in there. Just going to go ahead and take my Intense Black ink up that stamp. I'm going to just stamp that out. I think I stamp it a couple times just to make sure it's nice and solid here. Just give that a press, and I'll go ahead and ink that up again and get just a really nice solid impression with that black ink. I really like the look of the black sentiment on this project. I think it really makes the sentiment pop, and so that's the reason why I chose the black ink for this project. So there's that coordinating die. The dies line up beautifully, and so I've got that all taped down. I'm just going to run that through my Bitty Buzz cutter here and trim that out. And that's just going to create a really nice professional look with the sentiment. So I always love how Honeybee has coordinating dies for their sentiment sets. I think it's a really great investment. Now I do have some foam adhesive on the back of the Dianthus. I'm going to set that down. It's going to be nice and popped up and dimensional in that way. It's really nice with that white rectangle behind it. It just really makes the Dianthus pop off of that pattern background, but yet you can still see the stenciling behind there. I think it looks really nice. And I've taken some foam strips and I've added them to the back of the sentiment so that you can see that the sentiment will be popped up. And I'm going to overlay that over top of the stem at the bottom of the flower and just center that as best I can down there using my tweezers. And then that's going to finish off most of the card. I'm going to add some of the gorgeous Harvest Pearl stickers in blue to my project as well, using my Honeybee craft pick here. And that is going to finish off my process today. Friends, I had so much fun with these products. The Heartfelt Harvest collection is stunning. I've been just having a blast creating with it, and I hope that this inspires you. And I have linked to all of these different products that I used today in the description box below. Have an amazing day, friends. I hope to see you again soon. Take care, stay well, and happy crafting. Bye-bye.